Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leek. I'm John as always, and this weekend we got our first taste of Ixalan with the pre-releases. I played in a couple at the Gamers Emporium, Wonderland and Oxford in London, Ontario. If you're ever in the area, check it out. We do amazing pre-releases plus a full weekly schedule of Modern and FNM Draft and Sunday Standard and etc. So check that out if you're in the area. This was our biggest pre-release ever. This was one of the biggest pre-releases in the city, if not flat out the biggest in the city, with 80 people. So many, in fact, that we actually had to have another room in the building that we usually do our event in. The other room was, in fact, quite nice with fancy chairs that actually went out to priority people who were randomly chosen who got to sit in those fancy, comfy chairs all day. And it was much more better air-conditioned because it was a very hot day, feeling like well over 41 degrees Celsius. Lots of new players were out, young and old, and over 200 packs were given away over the weekend. I played in both the Saturday, the 80-person event, as well as the Sunday morning event, which was only 16 people. I did not take part in the afternoon event because it was too ridiculously hot. Plus, I had to get these videos out, but it was also another 16 people. I'm going to go over both decks that I played, both pools that I did in depth, as well as the matchups and how it went. And yeah, let's just say one went a little bit better than the other. What you're seeing right now in super fast motion is me looking at and putting together my Sunday deck, which we're going to take a look at first. So of course I looked at my rares first, and we had, unfortunately, right there in the bottom corner, 3 dual lands. Luckily one was a foil, so it didn't take away from my the rest of my rares, but my promo rare was an arcane adaptation, also utterly unplayable. Luckily it was saved by a repeating barrage and a hostage taker, which is fantastic, as well as settle the wreckage. Legion's Landing looked okay, but you've really got to be in a very specific deck to ever think you're actually going to flip that. But needless to say, the rares weren't looking great, and I really wanted to go blue-black, maybe red something. But let's take a look at the rest of the colors. White, up there in the corner, had Ixalan's Binding, which looked fantastic along with that Settle the Wreckage. Unfortunately, it kind of fell off a little bit from there. We had a Queen's Commission, which is okay, I guess, an Inspiring Cleric, which isn't great. Bellowing Aegisaur is pretty darn good if you can get to it, and a Shining Aerosaur is also totally fine. Slash of Talons was the only other removal after the Ixalan's Binding, and it's not great. Vampire's Zeal for a combat trick, a pair of Sunrise Seekers, which are awful, and a Ritual Rejuvenation, which is awful. So white was not looking great. It was looking splashable, we'll say. Blue, which I really wanted to play because of that hostage taker, was looking even worse. We, of course, had that garbage arcane adaptation. We had a trio of Shorekeeper Trilobites. We had a couple of Sailor of Means, a Windstrider, a Shaper Apprentice. Chart the Course is pretty good. Spell Pierce is pretty bad. Opt is fine. Shipwreck Looter, Depth of Desires, Run Aground, Deep-Root Waters, and Headwater Sentries. Just all utterly mediocre to okay, just not enough blue there to really grab that hostage taker. Maybe black could save us. Unfortunately, black did not save us. We had a Kite Sail Freebooter, which I've got to give a try at some point because I'm not going to say definitely. I probably underrated it with an F. I mean, that's obviously the most underrated it could possibly be, but I don't think it's amazing as some people think. Skittering Heartstopper is probably the second best creature here, which is really disappointing. We did have a Dark Nourishment, a Contract Killing, a pair of Vanquish the Weeks, and then it just kind of all falls off there. Unfortunately for Hostage Taker, just nowhere near enough blue-black playables to actually go for it. So that brings us to red with the repeating barrage. Hopefully we had some good stuff here, perhaps. We had a Bonded Horncrest, which is totally fine if you are filling the board. Sun-Crowned Hunters are expensive, but okay. Pair of Nest Droppers, which are nice and aggressive. A Thresh of Raptors, which is pretty good if you've got enough Dinosaurs. We'll have to see what green looks like. Lightning Rig Crew basically goes in any deck. If you're in Pirates, it's better, but it really can go in any deck. Don't lose sight of that. Not too much else going on here. Fire Cannon Blast is totally fine removal. Dual Shot, Ryle, Wily Goblin, all just kind of garbage here. Maybe enough red to push into a deck, but again, not quite enough. So green had to save us, and green kind of saved us. It had Pounce, it had Snapping Sailback, it had Ravenous Daggertooth, a pair of Ixali's Keepers, New Horizons to help us splash in the inevitable 3-color deck that we were going to have to do here. And then it fell off, of course, with Fog and Emergent Growth and Jungle Delver and such. But I think, especially given that I wasted 3 of my rares on dual lands, we had the makings of a 3-color deck, specifically Naya Dinosaurs. The multicolored cards in my pool definitely solidified the Naya Dinosaurs. We had Deadeye Plunderers, which with the Hostage Taker would have made an amazing blue-black deck, but we just did not have enough. But we had a pair of Raging Swordtooths, one of them foil, and a Sky Terror, which really kind of solidified my choice to go into the Naya Dinosaurs deck. As for artifacts, we had Garbage, a pair of Pirate's Cutlasses, and a Sentinel Totem, just something I am not going to be playing. And then, of course, in the lands, we had ourselves those 3 duels, an Unknown Shores, which I really did not want to play, and a Field of Ruin, which I really did not want to play. So Naya Dinosaurs it was, with this lovely rare fixing we got. And this is what the Naya Dinosaurs deck ended up looking like, and we're going to take a look at each of the drop slots in this deck. Up first in the 1-drop slot, we had a Vampire's Zeal, which is a fine enough combat trick, and because I was slightly light on removal, it worked as a very scenario-specific piece of removal, and a default scenario-specific piece of removal was Slash of Talons, which was not great, but it's all we had. The 2-drop slot had some good stuff. Nest Dropper is a nice, aggressive, hasty creature. Skyterror is very good. The pair of Ixali's Keepers were fine bears. I did occasionally use them for their ability. And of course, Pounce is just a solid piece of removal. The 3-drop slot had less creatures with just a Lightning Crew and the Dagger Tooth, but it had a whole bunch of spells with Crash the Ramparts for, again, sort of removal, maybe for aggro. Repeating Barrage, which was definitely removal. I did in one game repeat it 5 times. New Horizons to help me fix my mana, and Fire Cannon Blast for some more removal. The 4-drop slot had the Bonded Horncrest because I did have enough, I think, lowish creatures that this would be able to attack and block a fair bit, and Thresh of Raptors, which is really good when it's a 5/3 trample. The 4-drop spells had Ixalan's Binding and Settle the Wreckage, both very, very good pieces of removal. We are, of course, the dinosaur deck, so we're going to have 5 drops and 6 drops. 5-drop slot had Snapping Sailback, which I never saw once in 6 rounds, which is unfortunate because of how incredibly good it is. The Raging Swordtooth I saw quite a bit, however, and that's a very solid card. And Shining Aerosaur is quite nice as well. And then finally in the 6-drop slot, we had Bellowing Aegisaur to hopefully get counters on all my creatures, as well as the Sun-Crowned Hunters to just be kind of an Afflict 3, which it functions as and feels just as bad as Afflict 3 feels. Bad for the person who's playing against it, not bad as in it's bad. Thankfully, it does cost a whole lot of mana. And so that's how the first deck went on Sunday, and this is what it looks like in full. I was playing both of the Rootbound Crag and the Sun Petal Grove, as well as a mixture of forest, mountains, and plains. I started off well, although my first win was a little bit of a free win. My opponent was playing his very first tournament and must have had some miscommunication on land-to-spell ratio, as they were playing 17 lands in a 56-card deck. They unfortunately did not do terribly well, but after the match was over, I did help them get down to a 40-card deck that I think might have done a fair bit better. Match 2, Match 3, Match 4, I lost, and lost. One of them was due to just an amazing deck, which I'm pretty sure top-8'd. It had Vraska, and it was a very aggressive red-green deck otherwise. The next 2 matches was lands. Some games I had 2 lands on turn 8, other times I had 13 lands on turn 13, and it just didn't work. So I was out of contention, but I stuck around for the whole day. I was the head judge of the event, so I wanted to be there for judge calls and things like that, and I just wanted to play this format as much as possible. So my last 2 rounds, I ended up winning, so I finished with a 3-3 record. I played against an awful lot of dinosaur decks. That was easily the most prominent deck that was out there, be it red-green or red-white or green-white or full-on Naya like I was. I think I only played against 1 or 2 pirate decks, and I did not see any merfolk decks. But yeah, it was a very interesting day, and I wish I had done better, but I always had Sunday to fall back on. So let's take a look at Sunday's pool and deck. Sunday, I opened up all of my rares and saw some better rares, and very importantly, no dual lands taking up rare slots. My promo was Goring Ceratops, a very, very, very good card if you can get it out. Burning Sun's Avatar, again, a very, very, very good card if you can get it out, and it's not as hard to get out. Rampaging Ferocidon, another good red dinosaur. Shadowed Caravel, I don't know that Explore exists. In 2 full pools, I think I saw like 2 cards that explored, so we'll see if Explore is actually printed on any card or not, because my experience says it's not. Treasure Map is fine in basically every deck. Growing Rights of Itlamok is a card I definitely wanted to try out, and Tocatli Honor Guard, which is pretty darn terrible. However, spoiling a little bit that I was playing white, in one of my matches, my opponent was playing blue-red pirates, and they were, getting treasures left and right and doing all kinds of raid shenanigans. And at the last second before presenting my deck, I counted up in my deck how many Enter the Battlefield triggers I had. I had 2, and in fact, you're seeing the 2 here, Rampaging Ferocidon and Burning Sun's Avatar. And so I sided into Tocatli Honor Guard, and it was a beating against my opponent's deck. So make sure that you don't ignore Tocatli Honor Guard, it still will come in a fraction of matchups and a fraction of decks, but it does have a sideboard place, but it still is a super weak one at that. You should never waste a real pick if you're in draft on Tocatli Honor Guard, and never, ever main deck it. Looking at those rares, I knew that I wanted to play red and white if possible, but of course we saw Hostage Taker abandoned in my sideboard yesterday. Taking a look at white, well, there's 3 Territorial Hammer Skulls sitting there, and that basically just decides everything. In addition to that, we did have a Shining Aerosaur, we did have a Raptor Companion, and a Pterodon Knight. We had not really any removal, just a Bright Reprisal, which is extremely expensive and narrow. We had a Rallying Roar if we did want to try to go wide, and then a whole bunch of garbage just sitting there. Blue was basically immediately cut. We had 3 Storm Sculptors, 2 Spell Pierces, Siren's Ruse, Cancel, Dive Down, 3 Opts, which are fine, but they do not make you want to play blue. Basically, the best card here is Perilous Voyage, and that's pretty bad. So blue was instantly cut, put all the cards in a pile, didn't look at them again. Black suffered the same fate. It had a contract killing, that's pretty good, and then that's about it. We wasted some cards on Costly Plunders and Duress and Spreading Rot and Queen's Agents and just other mediocre cards. I guess Queen's Agents, Explorers, I guess I saw some Explore cards. And let me tell you a story about Wanted Scoundrels. I played against Wanted Scoundrels in maybe 6 games on Sunday or on Saturday in the first pre-release, and in every single experience I was able to pretty quickly deal with them and then just take over the game because of those extra treasures. I do not believe that Wanted Scoundrels is a card that you actually want to play. It just helps your opponent so much. The one game, I ended up with 15 power, 15 toughness on the board by turn 6. I am out, as I was to start with, on Wanted Scoundrels. I think the people who are rating it like a 3.5 or 4 or saying that it should be in every deck and a really high pick, even first pick, are wrong. Looking over at red, the other color that I super wanted to play because of the Burning Sun's Avatar and the Rampaging Ferocidons, had a pair of Tilonali's Knight, which works great, a pair of Nest Robbers, which works pretty fine, a Thresher of Raptors, which works great, pair of Dinosaur Stampedes, basically cementing that I was going to be red, white, go wide aggro. And then not much. We had Stormfleet Pyromancer, which I've been really unimpressed by. Trove of Temptation, which I am never going to play. And Fiery Cannonade, which is not the other spell that has almost the same name, Cannonade Fire or something. I put this in my deck, luckily played a practice game before we started, and discovered that this does not deal 3 damage or 6 damage if you raid. This is the one that deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature, and would have been horrible in my deck, so I cut it out and put in the Fire Shrine Keeper, which I guess is a spoiler that I was in fact playing red-white. Before I decided on red-white, I did take a look at green because I really wanted to play Growing Rites of Itlimoc, and I had a Drover of the Mighty and a pair of Blossom Dryads and an Archer and a pair of Colossal Dreadmaws, and then it falls off a little bit with an Ixali's Divinery, an Ixali's Keeper, Commune with Dinosaurs, and then garbage with the Ceratops and the Jungle Delver, and Verdant Rebirth is okay, I guess. So actually all the cards out here are kind of playable, but my issue was that I had very little fixing, and green was definitely going to be one of the least represented colors. I would have been red, white, and then a little bit of green, and having all of my fixings stuck in green just didn't look great to me. So good green here, but I didn't feel the need to kind of hurt the consistency of my deck by going Naya. So I did decide to go red, white, and I guess we have a few more cards to look at here first. As far as gold cards go, we had another Sky Terror, which fit in completely perfectly, and a Call to the Feast, which was not going to be something I was going to play. Then a whole host of artifacts with a pair of Cobbled Wings, one of them foil, a pair of Hierophant's Chalice, a Pirate's Cutlass, all garbage, a Shadowed Caravel, which was not going to do any work, a Treasure Map that I was certainly going to play, and a Pillar of Origins that I was certainly going to play because I was playing, I believe, 13 Dinosaurs at my final count. And this was the red-white Dinosaur Stompy deck that I ended up playing with, and we're going to take a look at each of the slots now. In the 1-drop slot, we had Fire Shrine Keeper, which was that last second addition over the Fiery Cannonade, I think it was, unless that was the other one that sounds the same. It wasn't a great card, but it was an aggressive 1-drop that I could actually get in for damage with because of the menace. And if I ever got to 8, maybe I got to ping a couple of things. And a Vampire Zeal, which is just a fine combat trick, which if I'm just going to be 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop attack, is a fine card to play. Of course, this is not Amonkhet, which means that my 2-drops attack similar 2-drops. They're not 5/4s for no good reason. The 2-drop slot was stacked with aggressive creatures, a pair of Nest Robbers, which are really nice on turn 2, a pair of Tildenali's Knights, which were almost always 3/3s, a Sky Terror, a Raptor's Companion, the Pillar of Origins, which I actually only played once, but would have maybe helped out, I guess, but I didn't super need it, and a Treasure Map, which is a very good card in basically any deck. I didn't always find it a card that I wanted to play in this super aggressive deck, but there were still times where the format's slow enough that a card that literally just scries if you put mana into it felt amazing. The 3-drop slot was nice and aggressive as well, with the 3 Territorial Hammerskulls, a card that I can't believe is at common in this set. That's ridiculous. Rampaging for Rossadon did me quite a bit of work as well, and I was basically always ahead, which meant that the downside for me was not really that big of a deal. Dinosaur Stampede and Rallying Roar were fantastic additions in this deck and finished off several games, multiple games getting finished off by me casting both of them on the same turn. Just out of nowhere Trumpet Blast, the way Trumpet Blast likes to win. It was definitely a red-white dinosaur deck, so we're going to see less cards now. At the 4-drop slot, we had 2 Thrash of Raptors, really good, and Pterodon Knight. When you have a whole bunch of dinosaurs, she is great. 5-drop slot had just a Shining Aerosaur, a really nice Curve Topper, and Bright Reprisal, an absolutely awful piece of removal. I don't think I cast it once, or actually I do believe I cast it once in 4 matches. It costs so damn much. It does not really fit in an aggressive deck. Maybe in Sealed. In Draft, I don't know if I would regularly play this if I was a deck that looked like this one. The 6-drop, the Curve Top, or almost Curve Top, was Burning Sun's Avatar, an absolutely beast of a card, probably in my 2nd or 3rd best slot of the entire set. And Sun-Crowned Hunter's a card that is totally fine. I'd probably preferred to have not played it, but I was slightly missing playables and didn't want to dip into green, so those 2 6-drops. Finally, in the 7-drop slot was Goring Ceratops, my promo, and I never actually played it. The games never went long enough for me to get to this. We'll see how draft looks, but it could be that Goring Ceratops is just way too expensive. 7 mana is an awful lot in white, perhaps if you're in green-white, but it doesn't really have that much of a home in a red-white quick deck like this one. So this deck is the deck that did significantly better than the previous one, and I did not get any free wins this time. This was a 16-person 4-round event rather than the 6-round event like the previous day. And yeah, match 1 I was up against Sean, who stumbled slightly, and yeah, Dinosaurs just got real aggressive and ran him over. Match 2 I was up against Chris, who was playing blue-green with the ultimate plan of being get to Dinosaurs and make the dinosaurs fly. Unfortunately, again, super aggressive 2-drop, 3-drop Trumpet Blast just ended the game pretty quick. Match 3 I was up against Alex, who was playing blue-red Pirates. That's where I sided in the Tocatli Honor Guard, and it really kind of damaged his deck quite a bit. Suddenly he was playing 1/4s for 3 that did nothing instead of giving him a treasure, etc. That match ended up going to 3 due to a little bit of land issues on my part in the one game, though it was still pretty close because land issues didn't hurt me all that much. But I did pull it out in 3. Again, using Dinosaur Stampede and Rallying Roar in a single turn to just end the game out of nowhere. Finally, in match 4, I was up against Dan. We were both the only 3-0s left, so we basically didn't really super care who was going to win because 1st and 2nd both got 6-packs. So we played it out, and he was playing quite a stacked deck. He had Admiral Beckett Brass, he had Jace, he had Captain Lannery Storm, he had Vraska's Contempt, he had Sword Point Diplomacy. Basically, all of his rares were on point, and he was playing a very scary deck. He took me down in game 1. I took him down in game 2 with the good old Dinosaur Stampede. Game 3, took him down again with the good old Dinosaur Stampede to take 1st place in the pre-release. Though, as I said, Dan also got 6-packs just like I did because we do a little bit of a flatter pay structure just to make sure that everybody gets prizes. Or not everybody, but a lot of people. The top 8 in this case, 50% of the people there got themselves prizes. Really fun day. Again, Gamers Emporium at Oxford and Wonderland in London. If you're ever in the area, make sure you do check it out. I'm there every Friday drafting, and there's other events going through all the time. So make sure you check that out, and I want to hear how your pre-releases went, so let me know in the comments down below what you opened, what you played, what surprised you, what worked exactly as you expected. Burning Sun's Avatar, surprise, is really good. Let me know in the comments down below. Pre-release is over and set reviews are over, but that doesn't mean that release content is over. I will have a draft video up tomorrow afternoon or evening of the very first Ixalan draft on MTGO. We've got a Chaos draft coming up on Wednesday, an Ixalan crack pack on Tuesday, more top 10 lists. I've got a video that I'm very excited about on Friday. Saturday, we will have Spiky Saturday. I'll be streaming. I'll be doing a box opening the following week. There's tons of more Ixalan content to come. So make sure you do check all that out. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at the Mana Leek. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at facebook.com/manaleek, twitch.tv/manaleek, and patreon.com/manaleek. If you like the content, click that thumbs up button. If you want to see more, like all that content I just talked about, click subscribe if you haven't already. And if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.